Hello, welcome to Popcorn Chat. I'm Kurt Jarvis. This week I will be reviewing three movies. They are The Iron Lady, Contraband, and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. First of all, let's start with The Iron Lady, starring Meryl Streep. This is a historic biopic of Margaret Thatcher, who was the first female Prime Minister of Great Britain. In fact, she was the first female leader of the Western Hemisphere, and she was quite popular, and she served 3 terms, and I don't think they've had a Prime Minister serve 3 terms since or before that. Anyway, Meryl Streep plays Margaret Thatcher beautifully, and the problem with this movie is that it's just not a very good movie. It's slow in parts. There are some very charming parts between Meryl Streep and James Broadbent, who plays her husband throughout the movie, but the problem is it takes place where Margaret Thatcher is aging and she might be suffering from dementia, or she might just be, getting old and forgetful, and she's looking back on her life, and that's not the most interesting part of her life. Her most interesting part of her life is her ascension into being leader, and you only get glimpses of it in the movie. You only get about 5 minutes, really, of it in the movie, and I think that's the more interesting part is, why was she so iron-willed? Why was she such a staunch conservative? Why did, every time she speak, it sounded like fact instead of an opinion? I mean, to me, that's the interesting part, and they just touch on it, to the point where that seemed to be the more interesting part of the story. But, Meryl Streep just did what she could with it, and she did a brilliant job. I still think she should have won the Golden Globe, and she did. Moving on to Contraband. Contraband is an interesting movie, and I'll say this. When you have movies in January, you usually get 2 types of movies. You usually get movies that are making that last-minute Oscar push, or you get crap. So I was very worried and skeptical about Contraband coming into this because it's being billed as an action movie, and if it's going to be an action movie, why wouldn't you have it in the summer? When all the big blockbuster movies are coming out. So I was kind of, I didn't have any high hopes for it. I thought, well, maybe you'll just, see what it comes out to. But it ends up being a very decent action movie. It's not an Oscar-worthy movie. I'm not trying to say it belongs in that category. But for the people that like to just sit back with your big tub of popcorn and watch a movie, it'll do the trick. It's a solid effort. And also, they use what I call the Mark Wahlberg formula for success. This is what this is. If you want to have a successful picture starring Mark Wahlberg, you have to follow this and have to understand these things. First of all, you have to understand what Mark Wahlberg brings to the table. He has this evil scowl of this badass who's about to punch you or shoot you. I can't do it because I'm not him. But he also has a very charming smile. And another thing he has that a lot of action stars don't have is he has very good comedic timing, and that comes into play whenever you have a good writer who can write sarcastically or witty banter. Mark Wahlberg can pull that off. He really can. He has done it for a long time. I don't personally think he's a good actor, but I think he is a very good entertainer, and I think he understands his limitations. He's the same character in every movie. He has the same accent in every movie. He can be out in Montana, and this took place in New Orleans. He could be in Florida. It doesn't matter. He's still bringing it hardcore with a Boston accent. That's just what you're going to get with Mark Wahlberg. The key is, and here's the formula to the success part, surround him with good actors, so when the heavy acting has to happen, they get to do that, and he won't bring you down from it. And in this case, they did it with 2 actors by the name of Ben Foster and Giovanni Ribisi. And Ben Foster, as a matter of fact, if you haven't heard this guy or seen this guy, you need to. He's a very good actor. I noticed him first in Alpha Dog, and then he co-starred with Woody Harrelson in The Messenger, which was a very gripping drama. You need to look him up. And another thing about Contraband that you need to know is Kate Beckinsale didn't ruin the movie like she has done so many times. Way to go, Kate! All right, moving on to Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. It took me 2 days to figure out whether or not I liked this movie. And I finally just decided if it's taking you that long, you probably didn't like it, and I don't. This movie has a lot of problems. It also has a lot of positives, but overall, I just can't outweigh the negatives, the cons from the pros, so to speak. The first thing that it did have that was great was it had solid acting. Tom Hanks, Sandra Bullock, and even the kid, who played Oscar, is fantastic. He came, his name is Thomas Horn. He came out of the screen and acted with both of them very, very well, very solid. So the acting is there. My main problems are with the script itself, and I realize it's based on a book, but I don't care about that. If it's directly from the book, then the book is flawed too. Here's my problem with it. this kid is supposed to have this rare syndrome, okay, where he's so intelligent he has no social skills whatsoever, okay? So you kind of think, okay, well, he's detaching himself from society, which in writing this character, he detaches himself from the audience, and they set up this nice little scene in the beginning where Tom Hanks is challenging his intellect by sending him on these little reconnaissance missions, which allow him to talk to people, and it's a really nice scene, but you only get like 5 minutes of that, and then once Tom Hanks dies, because he dies in the World Trade Center attacks in 9/11, once that happens, the movie just goes downhill. It really does. And they're trying to portray this kid as having this syndrome, but then he later admits that he was tested for it, and he didn't test for it. So now you have no reason for this kid to be acting as bratty as he is, and as disrespectful as he is towards his mother, who at one time he says, "I wish you had died instead of my father." And to make that sound genuine, her next line was, "Yeah, me too." And I'm sitting there thinking, "Yeah, me too, just to get away from you, you little brat." I mean, he wasn't endearing to me at all. I didn't care about him. Matter of fact, he made me just pissy more than anything. I just wanted to grab him by the collar and shake him and say, "Get some help, kid." I mean, at one time, to give you an idea how bad this got, at one time, he was sitting there and printing off pictures of people that were jumping out of the World Trade Center and blowing the pictures up, hoping that one of them was his father. That's creepy, okay? This is not endearing. This is not sad. This is not dramatic. That's creepy. And the kid just needs some help and some focus throughout most of this movie. There are some really good scenes between Tom Hanks and Sandra Bullock on the phone. There are some really nice scenes between the kid and Sandra Bullock later, but they're too few and far between to really legitimize this picture. And the last thing I will say this is, I don't understand why this had to be the World Trade Center 9/11 situation. That's the backdrop they used, and it could have been anything. It could have been Tom Hanks dying in a car wreck. He could have died of cancer. He could have been hit by lightning. It didn't have to be set to the 9/11 backdrop. It made no sense whatsoever. They just used that as a marketing ploy to get you to go see the film or to get you to buy the book. I don't agree with that. That's a very risky thing to do. And, you know, as a matter of fact, it's like the Holocaust. Anytime you set the Holocaust as your backdrop, you're taking a lot of chances and a lot of risks for a lot of people. The same thing's going to be true with 9/11. It's a very taboo subject. It's a very polarizing subject. And it didn't need to be in this picture. They're doing it to sell tickets, and I don't agree with that. I think that is very disrespectful to your audience. If you come back next week, I am going to have a Michael Fassbender double feature critique. That is right. This man is in 3 movies this month. I'm going to be doing 2 of them. One of them is going to be called Shame, and the other one is going to be called A Dangerous Method. I'm also going to throw in Red Tails just for fun because it's something different from the other 2. And also, what I'm introducing new this week is my recommendation for a rental for those who like to sit on the couch and never leave their house to watch movies. A really good one out this week is 50/50. You might remember me mentioning it last week on my Golden Globes review. It wasn't the picture that I was upset with, it was the category that they were in. The movie is very much worth your time. It'll make you laugh, make you cry, make you feel, make you think. If you don't like those movies, then you're just not human and you probably won't like it anyway. So, until next week, I will see you back here at the same time, same channel, unless I see you at the movies first.